Hey everyone, it's Vince here, and normally I cover Tesla on a daily basis, but I'm getting into coverage of other names in the broad market. And so I wanted to present this video to you today of Bitcoin because I believe it's in a very pivotal moment right here, right now. So let's get started. The first thing I want to draw your attention to with this chart is the volume. And you can see here that we had volume spike very high on this low candle of 2026. And when I look at a downtrend that's steep, like what Bitcoin experienced, and high volume, I see that as a sign of capitulation. So there's a good chance that we made the bottom for 2026, and we've had price start to rise a little since then. The next thing I want to show you is the relative strength index. So I have my custom indicator here, and it's basically normal RSI, but the difference is I've programmed it so that it shows up in different colors depending on strength and weakness. And so right now we have red candles, which simply means that RSI is under 50, which is typically showing weakness. Under 50 RSI is weak, over 50 is bullish in a general speaking basis. Now we can see that in the past, we've had other moments where we have red candles clustering, and the natural phase after that is that the candles will turn white. And that means that RSI is above 50. So right now we actually have on this 2-week Bitcoin chart, RSI at 47. So it's not going to take much more to the upside to switch the candle color to white. And that could be another confirmation signal that things are getting better and strengthening and moving away from the low in 2026. Let's switch the candles back to their normal color here. And the next thing I want to draw your attention to is a long-standing couple of trend lines that Bitcoin has respected. So the first one's right here. You can see that this trend line has been an important pivot for price in the past. And this chart goes all the way back to pre-year 2000. And this recent low in 2026 was no different. In fact, we had a perfect tag, almost to the penny, of this yellow trend line. So there's another clue that we may have bottomed in 2026. Now, we do also have a trend line on the top too, which is well respected. So that's worth noting as well. Now, if we zoom in to price, there's an important area right here, right now. And it's in this pink box. And you can see that price is currently testing it. Now, the reason why I highlight this pink box is because last year, a couple of times, price actually found this price zone of the pink box, and it held as support. But later in the new year, we lost that zone, and that's what gave us the new low. Price has now come all the way back and is now retesting this pink box. So reclaiming price over this pink box is going to be important because it'll reclaim the old support that Bitcoin enjoyed. Now, another important item on the resistance side is this blue line here. Now, this blue line is the volume weighted average price, also known as VWAP, which I've anchored to the all-time high candle. And what that line represents is it represents the average price that Bitcoin investors paid ever since the all-time high. And with price currently below that blue line, that's creating a little bit of pressure because on average, weighted by volume, the average Bitcoin investor since the all-time high is underwater. Now, we are very close to that line, and it happens to be right in that pink box. So there's some heavy confluence of resistance right now, but we're not that far from overcoming it as well. So if we can overcome this resistance, then the probabilities of continued upside look very favorable. One other item I wanted to point out to you here is there's an open gap, and that's at this purple line right here. This is another custom indicator that I programmed that automatically identifies gaps in a chart. Now remember, this is a 2-week chart, so you won't see the gap show up as clearly visually, But if you go down to the lower time frame, you'll see it clearly. But there's an open gap at 93,600 right now. So I believe if price can overcome these resistances that we talked about, that it opens the door for a clean move to go and test that gap. Now, there's some other important levels I think are worth mentioning here, and that is the Fibonacci zones. So I'm going to just clean this chart up a bit so you can see it easier. But when I put a Fibonacci tool on this chart, and basically I'm measuring from the low in 2026 to the all-time high, and it gives us these Fibonacci levels, and these are very important levels, just like the volume weighted average price. These are levels that high frequency algorithms and institutions are looking at, and price can often have a strong reaction around them. So we do have the Fibonacci level here of 85,000, which would get us above these two resistances that we talked about, the VWAP and the pink box. So this is the level that I would be looking for confirmation to go long. Once we clear the 85,000 Fibonacci level, I think there's a high probability that we're going next to fill this gap at 93,000. Now, the reason why it's colored purple here is I just like to identify where the mid zone is in this Fibonacci range. So that's simply the 50% retracement level. It's basically the middle point from the low in 2026 and the all-time high. So that happens to be right where the gap is as well that we talked about. Now, if we do end up clearing that level of 93,000 Fibonacci and above the gap fill, then it opens the door for the round psychological number of 100,000. And once we get over 93,000, that becomes a magnet, in my opinion, because it's a round number, it's a psychological number, and price has a habit of gravitating towards round numbers. So that 100,000 happens to be a Fibonacci level as well too. And at that point, we'd be getting very close to the top of the yellow channel here. And that's where I would start to get a little bit cautious, just because of the history of that yellow channel, where we have had price reject from it fairly violently in the past. That doesn't mean it will happen this time, but I'd want to watch to see if there's a reaction there or if we can safely get above there. If we do get above, then that opens the door clearly to a test of the new all-time high. Now, on the downside, we want to make sure we're paying attention to this resistance that we talked about. And if we do get rejected from it, the level that I want to see hold is this Fibonacci level right down here. This is 74,000. So if we do come back down, that's kind of my last level of defense. If we start losing 74,000, then I think it opens the door for a higher probability that we're going to come back down and test this yellow bottom channel here. Now, in the context of the overall market, the indexes, tech stocks are ripping to new all-time highs as I speak. So there's definitely strong momentum in the macro right now. So I believe that makes the path of least resistance higher at this point. But it all comes down to where we are right now and overcoming these resistances that we currently face. The blue line, which is the all-time high VWAP, the pink box, which is prior support that we lost, and the 85,000 Fibonacci level. Now, I realize not everybody is into crypto or Bitcoin. So another way you could look for confirmation of overcoming these resistances and profit from it is to also look at names of stocks that are influenced heavily by Bitcoin. Stocks like Robinhood, for example, which gets a lot of its profits from Bitcoin trading, or a stock like Coinbase, and there's many other. But you don't have to play purely Bitcoin to be able to benefit from this setup. Well, thanks everybody. I'm going to be also posting broad market breakdowns over on Slice platform going forward. And so I hope you can join me there. Thanks for listening in. Have a great night.